You might be wondering, where am I? Where is Malcolm right now? And if you see my background, you'll tell that I'm not in the United States anymore. In fact, for the last 12 hours, I've been here in Doha, Qatar. And this is where the political body of Hamas terrorist group maintains their seat and does all their media. Now, I didn't visit them. That's not the purpose of this trip. In fact, this trip came about by complete and total accident. But I will be in the Middle East this week to get all the perspectives in relation to the Israeli-Palestinian war and how the Arab street sees that war. And I'll be fusing that in with information and stories about what's going on with the current crisis. But for now, I'm sitting in a country that is full of luxury and excess. In fact, I'm going to Dubai, where I lived in Abu Dhabi, the capital, for 10 years with my wife and my children. And I learned something about how they think over here as opposed to the poor people of Gaza. So you're going to get the benefit of that in this week's Black Man Spy. So I've spent a fair piece of time here in the Middle East, mainly in the Gulf states. And apparently I was following the trail of Secretary Blinken and Secretary of Defense Austin, who landed in Doha, Qatar at the exact same time I did, and flew to Dubai at the same time that I did, and had meetings in Abu Dhabi at the same time I was having meetings. I wasn't following them, that's for sure. But here in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, which is essentially a Disneyland for the global oligarchy now, there's a different perspective from what we would call the Arab street, because I'm not just here in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I've gone up to the areas that are not particularly rich and have a much, much closer perspective to how the average Muslim in the Muslim world feels. Sharjah, Al Quwain, Ajman, are three other of the Emirates that are marginal at best. The opinions that I'm getting there, and no one will come on camera because for as wealthy as this place is, people don't like to be very public with their opinions. It's the same that I learned when I was in Doha, Qatar. As one person said, yes, Hamas has an office in Doha, but they don't live here and they're not part of us, which was their way of saying they can be put out at any time. Here in the United Arab Emirates, the opinions are decidedly not on the side of Hamas. They view Hamas as a version of ISIS. They almost refer to them as, Palestinian Daesh, right, which is Palestinian ISIS. And they don't believe that what they did in Israel was justified in any way. This is a very, very different Middle East than it was when I was a young sailor who was starting out in the intelligence community. That's when the Middle East street was decidedly 100% pro-Palestinian and 100% pro-Palestinian resistance groups, terror groups, and activities that hurt and hammered Israel. No more. Everyone here, and when I say everyone, I mean every person that I've spoken to, and I've been to several diwans, that's where the men just sit together, drink coffee, have shisha, and eat dates, all saying that the old days are just not the way it's going to go. Unlike Daesh, ISIS, several people in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and other places actually funded them, believing that they were a religious group that had a point of view, a Salafist point of view, that they thought would be mobilizing and good for the Muslim world. No one believes that about Hamas. Everyone here hopes that this problem solves itself in some way, shape, or form. But when pressed on it, they all agree that they are going to have to negotiate their way out of this. They believe Hamas must be eliminated as a force, and they also believe that Hamas, as a military terrorist entity, must be wiped off the face of the earth. Now, how's that different? There is a political body to Hamas, the leadership of which is in Qatar, and then there are the operators and activists that are actually in Gaza. Well, we already saw that the Gazans are separating themselves away from Hamas, and Hamas are keeping 2 million people captives and using them essentially as human shields. Hamas may think that they've carried out an operation that got them closer to Jerusalem, but all they've really done is guaranteed that they are going to be wiped off the face of the earth. When I used the hashtag the other day, Hamas extinction, I wasn't joking. Now, every terrorist group dies for 2 reasons. 1, they either eliminate their terrorist capability, and 2, the population abandons them. Given an opportunity, the Palestinian people, especially those of Gaza, would run from Hamas. They haven't had elections in 17 years, and they have only been brought misery and suffering. Well, Malcolm, what's the solution to this? Well, that's going to be an article that I publish soon in Substack, where I'm going to talk about how it's time for the grand bargain. The one thing that hasn't been tried, that everyone has been running away from. Menachem Begin cut a deal with Anwar Sadat and stopped the warring between Israel and other nations. Yitzhak Rabin and the Palestinian Authority came to an agreement that there would be a Palestinian state. He was assassinated for his efforts. Maybe it's time for Netanyahu to finally drop his issues that he has in Israel and decide that he's going to mark his place in history by really sitting down, embracing the 2-state solution, allowing the Arab states to provide security and peacekeeping that will keep Israel safe, and solve this problem forever. Now, that's a big haul, because this problem is going on technically for centuries. That's at least the debate. And it's been an armed conflict since 1948. But it's time. And we'll see. So now I'm headed back to the United States to give some speeches. And we are going to, you should follow me on Substack at malcolmnance.substack.com, or follow me on the Black Man Spy channel on YouTube, because I'm putting out something every day now. This situation is so big, it requires explaining day to day. There's just no way that I can avoid these subjects. My next subject is going to be about how Hamas did this and what was their military capability and how it won't save them from the coming onslaught of the Israeli army.